Hello, my name is Lisa Finn, and today I'm going to provide a little training to you about a strategy you might be able to use with your child if they are just struggling to acquire new information and also retain it. And that is called errorless teaching. So I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to get started. So I titled this presentation, "When Your Kid Doesn't Get It." The goals of this presentation are to discuss different types of challenges that learners face, to introduce you to a strategy for teaching to improve the rate of learning and maintenance of skills, and to provide examples and practice of using errorless teaching. And parents, the struggle is real. You might be feeling like you're just not cut out for being your child's teacher. Or you might be thinking, why can't she just get it? I've said this so many times. And that frustration, I just want you to just sit in that for a second, because it's okay to feel like that. The struggle is definitely real. And the truth is, learners face so many different types of challenges. Your child might have difficulty with understanding, or what we would call processing. So they might have difficulty understanding directions, like what you're asking him or her to do, or I should say, understanding the information. So understanding what you're actually teaching or working on with them. Your learner might have difficulty with actually acquiring or learning new skills. And that has to do with something called working memory. And same thing with retaining information, which is called maintenance. So the ability to remember what they learned across days, or even for some kids across hours, is difficult. And for some kids, using the skills with other people or in new places is difficult. That's called generalization. So when they learn something with their teacher at school, then that may not translate over to being able to demonstrate that same skill with you, or even within your home, working with you and then with someone else. And this also is true for skills like if you teach, for example, the number 5, recognizing the number 5, then your child may not just get recognizing number 6. So some kids need actually every single skill taught to them. And then in addition to all of that, when learners are facing challenges with any of those things I just talked about, we can see behavioral challenges as well, due to frustration and just feeling like, I'm having such a hard time learning. And they may express that with some negative behaviors. And here's the hard truth. I want you to think for just a second about how many repetitions do you think it takes for someone to learn a new skill to fluency? There's been some research that's been done on this. And when I say fluency, I mean that it means something that you know right away, right? Like being able to give an answer automatically. I ask a question and boom, you can just give me the answer. Even if they do need a few minutes or a few extra seconds to process something. So these numbers are pretty different here, but what the research says is that typically developing children who don't have learning challenges take about 25 to 35 reps really to learn that new information to fluency, or automaticity, we might hear someone say. And children who have identified disabilities or just learning challenges can take up to 1,200 repetitions before they really learn a skill to fluency. So this is why you might feel like, I have taught this, I have said this so many times, and the truth is you have. It just takes that many times of practice. And that is a really difficult thing to, I think, accept. But we do have some ways that can help with helping kids to get these repetitions in so that they can learn some skills to fluency. And this isn't to say that every single skill is going to take 1,200 reps to learn. It's just that some skills that your learner may have more difficulty with may take that many times to really learn to fluency. So what can we do about it? Here's just some general tips. First of all, I would suggest breaking the work down. So teach it in steps or chunks, a little bit at a time, come back to it. work on it across the day, and don't try to teach it all at once. So a lot of times we might have, like, for example, a stack of sight word cards. And instead of working on all 10 of those at the same time, meaning like we're gonna go through all 10 of these, and tomorrow we're gonna go through all 10 of these, and the next day we're gonna go through all 10 of these, think about maybe teaching one at a time. So we work on one card, till I know that really well. And then I add in the second one, and I still practice that first one, but now I'm just adding in the one new one. So it's just breaking it down and introducing new material in smaller steps. And then also trying a different way to increase interest and motivation. So you might get the child up from the table and think about if he or she can learn the information in a different or maybe a more fun way. So for example, could you write letters in shaving cream, or draw it with chalk, or practice labeling things outside? So sometimes we just kind of have to get up from the table and do activities that are potentially more meaningful and more motivating for kids. Here's another approach about what we could do about it, is we could focus on practice with mastered material. So when you sit down with your child, 80 to 90% of your lesson could be stuff they already know. And then we sprinkle in that new material. So I sort of alluded to this already with the sight words thing, right? So if I have 80 to 90% of my lesson of stuff they already know, what's gonna happen? They're gonna feel really successful, right? So at home, this might look like keeping a stack of things that are mastered. Like you might have a stack of number flashcards. They already may know 1 through 10. Boom, boom, I can label 1 through 10 or point to 1 through 10. And you could do the same thing with word flashcards, picture cards. So you have this box, let's say, of materials and things that your child already knows, okay? And what you do is you select one new thing for them to work with. So let's say I have my stack of number flashcards and they know 1 through 10, then I have one new thing to work with, which might be number 11. And then you use the errorless teaching procedure that I'm about to teach you to teach it along with the stack of those mastered items. So let's learn a little bit more about what I mean when I say errorless teaching. First of all, errorless teaching is a method for helping students learn and retain information. And the theory behind it is that children do not learn successfully from their mistakes. And research suggests that frustration following incorrect responses can provoke negative behaviors. So what you're doing in errorless teaching is you're not giving the learner an opportunity to make a mistake and develop an error pattern. The benefits of errorless teaching is that it improves rate of learning, and there's a lot of research to support this as well. So what does that mean? My child may acquire more skills. Isn't that great? It may increase the ability to remember what was learned, just based on the sequence and the way that it's taught. And it reduces reliance on prompts, which is huge. So a lot of our learners are very prompt dependent because they've always been prompted. So a lot of kids that I've worked with, it's like no matter what you ask them, they like wait for you to give them a little prompt to point to something. Or sometimes naturally what we start to do is we develop a little thing where we do a partial verbal prompt and we don't even realize we're doing it. So what that means is you might ask a question and then start to like give them the answer just a little bit verbally, right? So like, what is it? When you're meaning to say cat, something like that. And so this particular procedure can reduce the reliance on those prompts because we put them in and then we fade them really fast. And it can also reduce problem behaviors during instruction because kids are not making errors and therefore you have less frustration. So here's how it works. This is a little infographic that I made that explains the steps, and we're going to go through each one of these things, and this will be a resource that you can refer back to. So the steps are prompt, transfer, distract, check. So take a second to say it with me. Prompt, transfer, distract, and check. Let's go through what each of those mean. Step 1 is prompt. So you want to provide your direction with an immediate prompt to the correct answer. Do not give your child an opportunity to make an error. Use a prompt that will definitely produce the correct answer. So, for example, if my target is that I want my child to identify the sight word out, meaning I have a flashcard and the word out is written on it and I want them to either say it Or if maybe you're just looking at your child being able to point that out, maybe in a field of 3 or 4 flashcards that are on the table. So what you do is you put out 3-word flashcards. So let's say I have boy, girl, and out. Boy and girl are already mastered. My child already knows those. And out is my new word. And what I do is I put those out and I say, show me out. And I immediately take the child's hand and I help him or her touch the word card that says out. That is the prompt step. Here are some different options for prompting. So this is, and this will also be a resource that you can print and have with you so you can remember different types of prompts. So this is going from least to most intrusive, okay? So the green ones are like the least intrusive types of prompts, the yellow ones are kind of mid-range, and then the red ones are the most intrusive types of prompts that we can provide. It's okay if you're providing a full physical prompt. I don't want you to think red is bad and green is good. This is just getting you to see the levels of prompting that we have within skills. So the first thing might be independent. No support is needed. Awesome. Maybe proximity. So sometimes you just move closer to the individual and that helps to produce the correct answer. Visual, maybe my use of a picture or an icon cue. So this would be, let's say you have a visual for the steps for washing hands at your house. That's called a visual prompt. So it's pictures of the steps for washing hands, and it helps your child be able to do that task correctly. We also have positional. So sometimes what you can do is if you have those 3 word cards out, you can actually move the correct one closer to your child than where the other ones are that are on the table, and that's called a positional prompt. Gestural is where you would point to the correct answer. Then we have indirect, verbal, or nonverbal. So that would be giving a kid a prompt where you might ask them an extra question, or sometimes they'll look at you and you just kind of shrug your shoulders and it kind of gives an indication that might be the correct answer. And then verbal prompts where you give the answer verbally. Okay, so if I have a picture card of a cat and I say, what is it? Cat. Then I'm giving a verbal prompt because I said cat. Modeling shows a student what to do. And then partial physical is where I might just like tap their elbow to help them get to the correct answer. Or let's say you want a kid to raise their hand, so I might just like tap their elbow and it helps them get their hand in the air. Versus a full physical prompt is where I would actually take the child's hand and touch the correct answer. Or in the case of getting a child to raise their hand, I might actually pull their hand all the way up. So you're helping them to complete the entire task. Now, which type of prompt you use is going to totally depend on your kid, and you might have to play around with this a little. And don't worry, you're not going to do like anything wrong. So just see. But the point in the prompt step is that you give them the prompt that will definitely produce the correct answer. So I'm not going to use gestural if the kid might touch another answer. I want to make sure that they're going to touch or produce the correct answer, however you're asking your question. Step 2 is transfer. So this is where I provide the same direction and an immediate prompt that's less than the one that we use in the first step. And you can use that prompt visual to help you. So if I use a physical prompt, I might try a partial physical or a gestural prompt. If I used a gestural prompt, then I might try a positional prompt by putting the correct answer closer to my child. So back to our example with identifying the word out, I put out the 3 word flashcards, and this time I say, show me out, and I immediately point. Remember last time I took their hand and I put it on there in the prompt step. This time I'm just pointing. It's a gestural prompt to the correct answer. In step 3, we distract. So this is, you provide 2 to 3 easy directions that the child has mastered. And the purpose is to shift attention and practice something else just for a moment. And this can be the same type of task like other sight words, or something totally different like imitation exercises. Do this, like wave, do this, raise hand, provide directions, clap, stomp your feet. You know, you could ask a question, you could ask them to label things, anything that just kind of pulls their attention away for a second from the sight word out that you're working on. So in this example, I might say, do this, or I might say, do this, and then the child imitates. And then lastly, in step 4, we check. We return to our original direction and we do not give a prompt. This is called an independent trial. If it's correct, we give a lot of praise. If it's incorrect, we start the sequence again. So, for example, for identifying the word out, I now put out 3 flashcards, the same 3, or you can put in 2 other mastered ones if your child has some more mastered words, and I now say, show me out, no prompt. And what this does is it allows us to see if they have it now, okay? So you should be able to go through, excuse me, those 4 steps pretty quickly. And the reason why it works well is because we're providing that prompt and we're not allowing them to have an error, but we also get to this step, which is we check for independence and we allow that opportunity for independence right away, pretty much. And so this is where it reduces that prompt dependency because you're asking for independence really quickly. So you're providing the support and then you pull it back. You provide the support and then you pull it back. So let's put it together. Here is another example with those 4 steps. So prompt, show the number 2 and say, give me 2 bears. Then I help count them out using hand over hand prompting. 1, 2. Now I say, show me the number 2. I'm sorry, I show them the number 2 and I say, give me 2 bears. And now I just point to the bears. I don't do the hand over hand, I'm just pointing gesturally. Then we distract. Do this, and then I check, give me 2 bears for independence. So that's what that looks like all put together. Now we're gonna watch a little video of what this looks like. This is actually a video of me working with my daughter, she's 2, and we're working on a little bit of letter identification. You can see what all the steps look like together.
Jenna, we're gonna work on some letters. Do you want a word for tickles or M&Ms? M&Ms. Ooh, that sounds good. Are you ready? Be a good listener and you'll get them. Okay, where's the J? Very good. Where's the J? Nice. Do this. Good, do this. Nice. Here comes the M&M. Look at the letters. Where's the J? All right. Good job. This is the J. Give me a high five. You're smart. Done.
When to use errorless teaching. We only want to use errorless teaching when we're teaching new skills. Once a child knows the skill, you don't use errorless because then you'll be giving unnecessary prompts. It also works really well for isolated skills like picture identification, gross or fine motor skills, number, letter, word identification, coin identification, counting a number of objects, and even sentence reading. So you do need to know that it's not a strategy that you would use for everything that you teach a child, but there are a lot of things that this works well for, especially if they're isolated skills. Some general guidelines. You want to select 2 to 3 targets to work on and stick with those until your child can answer correctly and consistently on the first try without a prompt. So that means you've already used errorless, they've got it, and now I kind of just check when they come to sit with me, do you know these things without using the errorless sequence. When I say 2 to 3 targets, I mean like maybe you're working on the counting of numbers, which is 1-to-1 correspondence. So give me 2 bears and they give 2 bears, okay? Or maybe I'm working on it with coin identification, find penny, find nickel, or 10 cents, 5 cents, even the value of those things. And then maybe another thing I'm working on are sight words. So I'm doing one of each of those things. Sometimes we call those programs where you're working on each kind of set of skills. So you want to maybe have 2 or 3 of those different sets of things that you're working on with one new target for each of those at a time. You definitely present the direction only once and prompt the correct response. We want to avoid repeating the direction. This is something we do naturally, and kids become very used to the fact that we are going to say it 2 or 3 times before they have to respond. You want to teach your child that you're going to say it once. And one way that will help with this is making sure your child is ready before you ask the question. So I usually say ready hands. I have them put their hands down and before I ever give the question. Because if your child's like looking around or anything like that and you ask the question, you're probably gonna have to ask it again. And your child then, you know, subconsciously learns, I don't actually have to listen the first time that someone asks me a question because I know they're gonna ask me again. And number 3, we never want to allow more than 3 to 5 seconds with no response. So if this occurs, you want to say, try again, and present the direction again with a higher level prompt. You can also use this sequence to correct if your child makes an error, even if the error occurs on the distract trials for things that they should know, because that does happen sometimes. We just make mistakes. It's part of life, you know, and even if your child has learned something through the errorless sequence and then they start to make an error on it later on, you can come back to it, redo the errorless teaching on it, and then it's still mastered. So it's okay to keep going back to this. I just want to say that we don't always want to teach everything in errorless once they are showing you that they know it, because then you're providing, like I said, too many prompts. If an error occurs at any time in a sequence, you want to stop and then start from step 1 with whatever the error was made on. So I'm going to show you a video now again of me working with my daughter, and she's going to make an error so you can see how we stop and then we start the sequence again.
Jenna, we're gonna work on our letters. Do you want to work for tickles or M&Ms?
M&Ms.
All right. Good listening, okay? Touch the D.
Wait, here.
Touch the D.
Wait, here.
Nice. Do this. Where's your ears? Okay. Get ready. Touch the D.
Wait.
Try again. Let's try it again.
Wait.
Touch the D.
Wait, here.
Okay.
Here comes
Touch the- Yeah, touch the D. Look.
Yeah.
Touch the D. All right. Look at me. Say, do this. Great job. Here comes the M&M. Touch the D.
Wait, here.
All right. That was awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we can work for another one. High five. That was really great, learning the letter D.
And just a few things to wrap up. Remember, practice makes perfect, or maybe just improvement. Using errorless teaching definitely requires practice, especially to use it well. And don't worry if you make a mistake, just keep going. You didn't do anything wrong, just keep it up. So you might want to print the 4 steps sheet where it says prompt, transfer, distract, check, and keep it next to you while you're working with your child. You can also print the types of prompts resource, and so you can see that while you're working. So those might be a couple good visual prompts actually for you. And then also you can videotape yourself and play it back just to see how you did. See if you can identify, oh, that was prompt, that was transfer, that was distract, that was check. And keep it up. If you use this regularly, before you know it, this will become a natural way of instruction for you. And you will likely notice more time on task, fewer errors, more skills developing, better maintenance of skills, and more opportunities for independence. And honestly, that will feel amazing. If you need some additional help with assistance when it comes to behavior, first, please reach out to your child's teacher and say that you need some help with behavior. And they will reach out to some district staff on the behavior group. And then we will set up a time to meet with you either via phone or a virtual platform to provide you with some assistance and some brainstorming for the things that are occurring in your home. I want to thank you so very much for joining me today and taking some time to learn this skill. It is not easy, but it is helpful. I can tell you it works. I use this a lot in my teaching for students who have difficulty for lots of kinds of things and many learning challenges. And so I just encourage you to give it a try if you're struggling with working with your child at home. Thank you so much and have a great day.